All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm host of today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13, as we are preparing to get underway for the second round of 10 for X League's Porsche Cup Series, their weekly Friday night event that will be taking place throughout the entirety of this summer. And folks, one story played itself out last week, and we may be looking at that same story playing out again. It's Mays. Missed qualifying and practice last week, started dead last, rushed his way up to the field, and ended up taking home the win in the season opener for this season of the Porsche Cup. Mays is starting dead last again, missed qualifying, again, missed practice. We have no idea what his actual pace is going to be in today's event. The qualifying circumstances were run under thin fog conditions, so visibility wasn't super high, but that's going to be a little bit different now in the race proper. It looks like XR Monaco is going to be able to join us for at least some of the officiating / pace car duties today. We do want to say thank you once again to Monaco for being able and willing to get that going here. So real quickly, a look through the field of the drivers who will be partaking. Lezaguera will be jumping in today's event, as will Indiel Violet. Wiza 4 is going to be racing today. They'll be joined by SSR Quinn, Breezy Rain, Capsule Healer 59, Tempered Ship 142, Lil Kid Swab, the defending series champion, TCPP Photo, Wicked Ant, and that is your lineup. We also have, as I did say, It's Maze as well. So that is one. Oh, we have what looks like will be a 11 car field today. So slightly, assuming that everyone's actually able to stick around, this will be a slightly larger field than what we had last week. Points have not been properly updated since the most recent event due to some technical issues. We anticipate that those will eventually resolve themselves and take care of themselves going forward. I believe everyone here has run at least one event in the Porsche Cup Series before, so the turnover and crossover time from qualifying to the race should be relatively minimal. This is going to be a 38-lap affair, technically 37, because remember you do have the pace lap that will does count to the overall race length. And real quickly, you'll get a run-through of the grid's proper ordering here once more. Again, most noteworthy thing I would argue, Mays. No qualifying, no practice. Last week he did that, went from the back to the front and took home the win with no issue. Are we going to see a repeat of that again today? So, Breezy Rain is going to be starting on the pole position by... No, that can't be right. Is it? I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Violet, right? Well, they are still in the process of organizing it, so... Okay, maybe Breezy Rain is starting on the pole. I don't believe Violet has a penalty they're serving, although there are a lot of penalties for the GT3 race from last week, and we will cover that in tomorrow night's race broadcast. But I'm not aware of Violet having any particular penalties that would be relegating them that far down the grid tonight. But it looks like your pole sitter will be Breezy Rain, followed by Tempered Ship. Then it will be Lezaguera and Wiza in row 2, SSR Quinn and TCPP Photo, row 3, Wicked Ant and Suave, row 4. And then row 5 will be Captain and Maze. Again, do remember there is the pace car that is going to be at the front as well as we first take the green, and that will be XR Monaco. And like I say every week, I do want to say a quick shout out thanks to Monaco and whoever is usually willing to step up and do such duties for performing pace car duties in the event. A lap here is about 1 minute and 45 seconds long. Pit time is going to be about 30 to 40 seconds long as well. There we are. There's the interval set as we desire. as we'll see the field file down, single file for now through turn 1. So yes, Indiel Violet had the fastest lap in qualifying, but for whatever reason that we are not familiar with, they are starting at the rear of the grid for tonight's event. Let's look at the fuel and tires for everyone starting this event. 41% in the fuel tank right now for Breezy Rain for Tempered Ship, who will be starting alongside them in the 67. 45% starting out in their fuel tank. Les Aguera, who's going to be starting third, has a full fuel tank, 100% in the tank. Wiza 4, just alongside them, is going to have only 40% early on. SSR Quinn, who is going to be in row 3, has 40% in their fuel tank, followed by TCPP Photo. Photo is going to be starting with about 40% in their tank as well. After that will be Wicked Ant. Ant here in this black, white, and red number 99 Porsche will have about 50% in the fuel tank, so a little bit more than some of the other drivers. Lil Kid Suave, who had an absolutely awful time in qualifying, 40% in their fuel tank. Capsule Healer, who was the slowest in qualifying, that IBM machine, 26%. So they're anticipating on running a very short period of time before ducking into the pits. Maze, who missed qualifying in practice, 45% in their fuel tank. And then Indiel Violet, who had the fastest time in qualifying, but chose to go to the back, or maybe serving a penalty I'm not aware of. It looks like they had about 50 or so percent in their fuel tank for the start of this event. And 37 laps. Last week, both of the races for X League went completely green, flag to flag. Be curious to see if we see a repeat of that tonight. Again, last year, the Kylami races were absolutely filled with chaos and incidents all up and down the field. But the field's a little bit smaller for the Porsche Cup race this year compared to what it was last year, as everyone now begins to double up. Now, it's going to be a little bit difficult being properly organized as they come out of the final corner just because of how slow and tight it is, but they should have enough of a run before they get to the start-finish line that they'll be doubled up. Green flag is in the air, and we are underway now for race 2 here at Kylami. Immediately, you can see cars pulling out behind there. That is Les Aguera looking to try and make it to the inside. 3 wide. Door to door to door almost as they're diving down into the corner. Tempered Chip on the extreme outside line. Breezy Rain's going to come down, try to block Aguera. And everyone's just kind of getting all sorts of sideways, but it looks like the field's going to make it through the first few corners without any catastrophic issues or incidents here. And Les Aguera has to slip back down to third. Went for that big 3-wide move, but could not make it stick. Got blocked at the last moment there by Breezy Rain. So Rain now leads Tempered Chip and Les Aguera side by side. And already Aguera has cleared Tempered Chip. Farther back, Maze has already gotten by Suave. And Violet is just a little bit ahead. Maze now trying to work the long way around Wicked Ant. Big slide by Wicked Ant as they came out of the corner there, and that will drop him. No, that wasn't Ant, that was Capsule Healer, actually. And that will drop Capsule Healer to last on the grid at the moment. But Violet has already moved up into 7th position. So already a third of the field disposed of for Violet. And we're not even halfway through the first lap. And it's Maze is following Sort just a little bit behind him. Breezy Rain is trying to pull away from Les Aguera right now as Violet runs right at this end of this little draft train as they come to the bottom of the mountain here. 3 more very slow technical corners here. One of the interesting things about Kylami is that the circuit only really has 2 real big downforce focused corners. The rest of this is a lot of relatively slow corners, almost street circuit, American street circuit, and how they feel. Oh wow, that is one of the cars. I think that may have been Quinn. It was either Quinn or Wiser, but it looks like it was Quinn who got off there, hit the curb, launched into the dirt, and came back on track with a way slower speed than normal. So yeah, that is Quinn, who is now stuck behind TCPP Photo. Quinn goes to the outside. Hard to make outside lanes work here, but if the driver on the inside overshoots the corner, blows the corner, they can go right by. And look at that, Wiza is going to stay ahead, and TCPP Photo trying to stay ahead of Violet. Violet side by side there, and now we got Photo still there, and now Maze is still right there looking at this all from the rear of the group. Cannot figure out a way by yet, but it is only the 2nd racing lap of the event right now. Violet finally clears Photo. A little bit of side-by-side stuff just ahead there between Wiza and Quinn by the looks of it. Or briefly side-by-side. Already they're back to single file. So Violet and Maze, drivers that we know are faster than next to last starting positions, really being held up by this midfield fight here. The top three are scooting away, and even amongst the top three, Breezy Rain has absolutely left Agera and Tempered Chip in the dust early on here. It's enough to make me wonder if maybe Breezy Rain has thrown on some softer tires, is trying to gap the field, open up a nice big gap. That strategy did not really pay any solid dividends last week at Hockenheim, but Kylami's a little bit different. Kylami is notoriously tire wear heavy. Not the heaviest in the game, but it does lead to a lot of tire wear when you run here. Violet missed the corner, and that is Photo who gets back to the inside of Violet through the final corner. Now they come onto the front straightaway here. But that may have been a bad move, because now TCPP Photo compromised his run out, and Maze is going to go by, and there is something going on here for second. It looks like Les Agera and Tempered Chip are not done. Now, reminder, Tempered Chip has a little bit of advantage. It is his tune, or at least it is listed as his tune that is on the storefront. Everyone runs the exact same tune in this series. Agera, big slide back there, but still staying right behind Tempered Chip. Wiza still reigning fourth with Quinn behind. Violet seems to be content in running third in this little pack of cars for now. But if you are Violet or Maze, you have to start making these moves and gaining the clean air sooner rather than later. Is that the move? That is Violet looking to the inside of Quinn's. Almost side by side. Quinn blinked and is a little bit wide into this little valley, and now they've rushed back up hill. This is the highest point on the circuit here, and the braking zone is really frustrating because you can feel the track falling out. It's basically leveling out under you as you are braking. It makes gain a consistent braking line very difficult through there. But for the moment, Quinn is able to keep Violet behind. Maze runs just behind Violet as well. Tempered Chip has stabilized ahead of Agera for now. Breezy Rain leads by not quite 2 seconds at the moment. And Quinn completely self-sold in the braking zone, and that's going to let him by. And Agera is pitting. Agera is pitting very early. What is the reasoning for this? There's a little bit of transmission damage, but I see no reason why they would need to be pitting. Pace car is not moving, but Les Agera has pitted only 3 racing laps into the event. So now, Tempered Chip runs 2 seconds out from Breezy Rain all by himself now. Wiza in third. Violet's now moved up to fourth. Maze has moved up to fifth. Quinn has slipped all the way down to seventh after that little bit of a hiccup there. And Les Agera is now going to be turning a lot of laps in clean air, but those laps in clean air are going to be off the fact that he has no track position now. 19% on the tires for Breezy Rain. For Tempered Chip, who runs in second, 19% on the tires and a little bit of engine damage. This is Wiza, 19% on their tires. Here's Violet trying to work the extreme outside line here. 20% on their tires, and they also have a little bit of engine damage, but it looks like Violet working the outside can make this stick. And Violet is now into the podium positions here. We're not yet 5 laps through. Oh, but Wise is not done yet. And Violet dropped the tire in the dirt, but still Violet has the ideal lane as they come to the top of the hill here. Wiza trying to set up for a crossover on corner exit, but cannot get the power down smoothly enough to hold it side by side as they come back down the mountain. So yes, Violet has most definitely moved up into the third position. Real quick, a look at Maze's tires. He is at 20%. So Maze is doing a little bit better tire management than Violet is right now. But Violet is making hay. And now that they've cleared Wiza, give them maybe half a lap or so, and they'll be running in clean air on their own, trying to run down the duo of Tempered Chip and Breezy Rain at the head of the field. So now the question is, what of Maze? How long will it take Maze to try and muscle his way by Wiza? And then, even if Maze does do it, does Maze have anything for Violet? They seem to be on relatively similar strategies. Not quite the same conditions, but similar strategies. Again, Violet did practice. Violet did qualify. Had the fastest time in qualifying, but is starting from the rear of the grid tonight. Lezaguera continues to run about 24 seconds out of Breezy Rain's lead right now. Don't really have a good idea if anyone is really running a alternate strategy other than obviously Lezaguera. We're assuming that everyone is running on the medium tire right now at this stage of the event. And let's just assume that the mediums can last you about 24% in 5 racing laps. So that would be 30% in 6 racing laps. If the medium tires can take you 12 laps, the soft tires could probably take you about 8 laps then. Very similar numbers to what we were seeing at Hockenheim. Well, there are several different ways you can try and go about it. You can try to stretch the mediums out, go 13 laps on the mediums, so do 13 laps, then 26 laps, and then just do only 12 laps instead of 13 for the final stint to the end. You can make it a 2-stop with only mediums, so you'd have a lot of tire fall off near the end of the stint, especially in the medium stint in that scenario, as Mays muscling his way by Wise. I had to put the bumper to Wise up, but he is by. Other options might be to go ahead and run 1 stint on the mediums to knock out 12 laps. That brings you down to 26 laps for the rest of the race. Knock out another set of mediums for about another 12 laps or so. That'd bring you down to about 14. Run a pair of softs, 2 softs. Now that would be a 3-stop strategy, but you would be a lot faster, and if you really wanted to, you could potentially run the softs for 8 laps instead and spend only 11 laps on the mediums. So tire strategy, one of the great games that we always are trying to figure out here in these events. Lezaguera is slowly closing the gap down between themselves and the leader, Breezy Rain, but I don't think Breezy Rain is going to be really the driver to watch to win this race. I think it's going to be NDL Violet. Violet started dead last, but is rushing their way up the field, already up to 3rd position right now. Their sights are currently on Tempered Ship just ahead as they come to the top of the mountain, and now rushing back down. Again, there are really only 2 corners that you can really say are downforce focused here. This one, at the bottom of the mountain, this big blind left-hander is definitely one of them. You can really feel the car load up underweight and with all the downforce really pushing the car into the ground, and thank goodness too, because that is probably the one corner that you need it more than anywhere else here. So Violet has rapidly closed in on Tempered Ship. Now the thing is, catching is one thing. How long is it going to take for Violet to pass? Mays runs about 2.5 seconds behind Violet right now, but if Violet spends a lot of time stuck behind Tempered Ship like they spent behind Wiza, it could bring Mays back into the fray here. Again, we don't know what strategy exactly everybody is running at the moment. Credit where credit is due. 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, Wiza, Photo, Quinn, and Capsule Healer all still running relatively close to each other on track. So the midfield relatively competitive, although Suave has shown no ability to keep up with the rest of the grid tonight, and neither has Wicked Ant. On the off chance that you want to go all hard tires all the way through the event, hard tires would probably last you about 16 laps. 16 and 16 is only 32. That would be a pretty suboptimal strategy. You'd still have to make a second pit stop anyway. In that case, you might as well just go all mediums, get a little bit more speed. All right, Violet has caught Tempered Ship as they're at the top of the mountain now. Now, in the GT3 race, last week at Hockenheim, we saw the pole sitter get spun out, lap 1, turn 1, and 10 laps into the race, they went from being dead last to leading and just kind of scooting off after that. Well, Violet's not had nearly as dramatic of a reason to be at the back. We might see a repeat of that. It may just come down to how long can Tempered Ship keep Violet behind. Violet looks to the outside briefly, and Capsule Healer is pitting here in the 7th spot. His tires are at 58% right now. So one of our other drivers here on track, this is Violet, only 37%. So again, so it looks like Capsule Healer was running the softer compound tires, but basically almost everyone near the front of the grid we know are running the medium tires, or what we believe are the medium tires. And yes, this would suggest that the soft tires can only go about 7.5 to 8 laps. Maze has now closed the gap between himself and Violet down to about 2 seconds, but Violet does not seem to be in a rush to get by Tempered Ship at the moment. Still hanging out just behind, running right behind for the moment. Credit to Violet, he's running slightly alternate lines in some of these corners, trying not to get hyper-focused, and that was a big mistake by Tempered Ship, dropping the tires on the outside dirt there, killing some of his forward momentum. And now that he's got Violet behind him, he really seems to be struggling. Now we see Violet going to the outside, trying to wrap it around the outside at the top of the mountain is a very, very difficult task. And Violet is still there. He's still there. They are still side by side. Now can Violet hold it side by side as they come down the mountain here? Tempered Ship on the ideal line. Violet's wide, but still there. Can he go deep under braking? He does. He goes plenty deep under braking. Tempered Ship's going to try and cross him over, but he can't do it. Violet's just way too fast, way too confident, and goes right by without issue. Big twitch by Tempered Ship behind. That's awful news for Maze, because that means that Maze did not have any time whatsoever to really close the ground down on Violet. SSR Quinn now pitting in 7th position there. I believe he was the other driver who threw on the softer compound tires. Lezagera now within 22 seconds of leader Breezy Rain. But again, the focus for Les should not be on Breezy Rain. The focus needs to be on Violet and to a lesser extent Maze. Maze is still stuck 2 seconds behind Violet. And now that Violet has disposed of Tempered Ship, this race win, the fight for the race win, seems to be all but over. I see no scenario where Violet can't just breeze by Breezy Rain. Would be awfully frustrating for Breezy Rain. Started right at the front, nothing wrong on their end, but the difference in ability between several of the drivers of the field are just absurdly large this season, the Porsche Cup, compared to what we saw throughout most of last season, it seems. 45% of the tires for Breezy Rain. I look at NDL Violet, he is at 45%. So Violet's doing about as good of a job as preserving his tires as Breezy Rain is. And here's Maze. He's only at 44%, but he has a bit of engine damage. That likely has a lot to do with why Maze is struggling forward so much. That engine damage, while it's not a big number, it will slow him down the straightaways. And when he finally does pit, he'll have to spend a little bit more time in the pits getting the damage repaired to the engine in that Porsche. But Maze is still closing down on Tempered Ship. And Violet is running down on Breezy Rain. So again, I would imagine the ideal strategy for just being simple and easy to follow would be just a 2-stop. Pit on lap 13, pit on lap 26, and just only run medium tires all the way through. You're going to have a lot of tire fall off on that 26th lap, but that would be the only time you'd have any serious tire fall off. I don't think it would be a scenario where that one lap would compromise your race so badly that it would be better to run a extra pit stop by spending more time on the softer tires. Tempered Ship still has not been caught by Maze. And Violet is now 2.5 seconds ahead of Maze again. Top of the mountain now, firing it off, back downhill again. And once Violet catches and disposes of Breezy Rain, he should be home free to the end. While the field has spread out, it has not spread out to such an absurd degree that we're likely to deal with a lot of lap traffic. I think there's a likelihood that even if we stay green, the entire field could stay on the lead lap by the end of tonight's event. So if Violet catches and disposes of Breezy Rain nice and quickly here, we could very, very easily see a scenario where Violet runs a nice, clean air for the rest of the night. And being in clean air the rest of the night means that there's nothing that would really cause them to have a catastrophe. I'm not saying that you can't have a catastrophe, but I don't think that there'd be anything to really hold them up or cause them problems. Now he is about 3 seconds ahead of Maze. Again, remember, Maze has that little bit of engine damage that isn't helping. But I don't think it's so much engine damage that it would be dropping Maze that fast. I think Violet's really coming to their own now. So what appears to be, what I think for most of the field will be a two-stop strategy. The big question, of course, would be Les Aguera in 8th, who is on an alternate strat. But the thing is that even if Aguera stayed out, was not committed to the alternate strat, NDL Violet would have already caught him. I don't know about passing, but he would have already caught him. So Violet has now caught Breezy Rain as they come to the top of the hill. Breezy Rain did not even try to fight. Left the inside line completely open there for Violet. Now Violet doesn't want to be on the inside. Coming down through here though. Still no tail into the last two corners. Now this high-speed right-hand kink. You have that big curb on the inside, which makes it very difficult to keep it on track. But if you can hit that curb right, you can skip over it, take a lot of speed with you, and fly. Wise up, paint at the end of lap 12. So that's 11 racing laps. TCPP photo, 11 racing laps. Here comes Violet to the outside of Breezy Rain, side by side for the win. And other than pit stops, I imagine this will be the last change we'll see for the lead today. Tempered Ship and Maze are having a fight as well behind, but our focus is at the front of the field. Breezy Rain trying to do some crossover shenanigans to keep Violet behind him, but it's too late. Violet has the ideal line in turn 3 here. Breezy Rain sliding the rear of the car as they came out of the corner. And I think Tempered Ship and Maze may have got into it back there. Still side by side, and now Violet lunges ahead of Breezy Rain. And he's clear. For the moment, Breezy Rain looking back to the inside, but there's just not enough traction on that ultra inside line. Out of the bottom of the valley now, coming up to the top of the mountain. At the rate is going, Violet will have disposed of Breezy Rain in about a lap or two completely, and will be in clean air to the rest of the race. Back down the mountain again. And it looks like we've lost Les Aguera, the one driver who is actually doing something interesting with strategy, now drops out of the event. We'll try to reach out to Aguera, see if they have anything they want to say. I'm curious to see if Violet pits this lap or not. Their tires are at 60.8% now, but they still have a little bit more fuel in the tank than I thought. But yeah, here we come. Violet pitting this time by. Really sideways coming in. Breezy Rain, though, wants to stay out an extra lap. Now, their tires are in the 62% range, but they are really going deep. Thing is, they're going to lose so much time on these worn-out tires, it's not really going to give them any significant benefit. Same thing with Maze here, who's going to go up into second. He has, well, Maze isn't doing a bad job managing his tires. He's only at 61%, and coming in the party right now is Les Aguera. Aguera, can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you able to include your audio in the Xbox party? All right. Aguera, first dropout of the day, and it's a shame because you seem to be the only driver doing something interesting with strategy. Why did you pit way back on lap 4?
Honestly, I thought the soft tires were gonna last way longer. And plus, I was lacking with pace on the mediums. So I decided to go for a strategy. I really had nothing to lose. But other than that, I kind of messed up on my strategy.
Well, frustrating to say the least. So your strategy, I guess, was like all softs all the way through?
Well, I started on mediums, and then yeah, I paid it. I think it was on like lap 4,
Yeah.
and yeah, like I said, that was gonna be a great strategy. Didn't turn out the way I wanted it to be.
Well, fair enough. Frustrating thing to say the least. With you dropping out, who do you think has this race win?
Uh, Either I think Violet or Maze, but ultimately I think Maze does because Violet's kind of having some internet connections. So hopefully, this internet doesn't cut out. But I do either got Violet or Maze.
All right. Anything else you want to say before we let you go for the night?
No.
All right. Well, that is the word from Lezagera. Sadly, our first DNF of tonight's race. But no, we'll eventually see him again in the future. And while we were talking, we saw both Breezy Rain and Maze complete their first stop of the event. So all drivers who are still running have now completed their first stop. It is Tempered Ship and Breezy Rain on top of each other. Reminder, Tempered Ship here pitted a little bit earlier than Breezy Rain. So he's got some wear on his tires, but he has used this to get track position. He's basically gained about 2 seconds on Breezy Rain. In fact, if anything, Breezy Rain has lost about 4 seconds of time just by staying out that 1 lap longer. They've lost 4 seconds roughly to Violet, 2 seconds and some change to Tempered Ship. So that choice to stay out 1 extra lap does not seem to have benefited Breezy Rain right now. Maybe we'll pay some better, stronger dividends later. But right now, it seems like that was a poor decision. They'll have to hope that somehow the tire wear and the fuel strategies give them such a massive advantage later that they can clear by Tempered Ship a bit later. Again, the other thing as well is that Maze is faster than both Tempered Ship and Breezy Rain. They've got their engine damage fixed, and they're on the same strat as Breezy Rain. So if Breezy Rain has any kind of advantage, Maze will be in an even better position to take advantage of it. So the fight for the podium positions are on, but the fight for the race win seems to be all but over. This is NDL Violet, started dead last, was fastest in qualifying, fastest in practice, started dead last though. We believe it was from choice. Already in the lead by lap 15. We're going to go ahead, take a Twitch mandated ad break, and while we're away, we'll spend a full flying lap around Kylami here with NDL Violet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami. It looks like Capsule Healer is one of those drivers committing to just running all soft tires throughout the entire event. Doesn't really seem to be giving them any benefit, though. Your leader is NDL Violet by about 6 seconds over Tempered Ship. who is barely keeping Breezy Rain behind him. And then you have It's Maze running in 4th right now. So these 3 drivers are fighting for the bottom 2 steps on the podium. And then you get out of that. Here's SSR Quinn in 5th with TCPP Photo right behind them. After that is Wiza4, who is in 7th. And they had Capsule Healer in their midst, but now that Capsule Healer has made a pit stop, he's back out of this group again. So our main focus is going to be this kind of big oversized stalking. Well, I shouldn't say oversized, but it's kind of this big stalking battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right now. Now, we believe that Maze is the faster of the 3. Now, one thing, when we did interview Agera, he said that he thought Maze had the win because Violet's been dealing with connectivity issues. I'm sure Maze is desperately hoping that there's some connectivity issues because there is no way on earth that Maze catches Violet. Violet has a 8-second lead on Maze right now. One thing that could help, though, would be penalties. But here's the thing. Of everyone in the top 4 right now, Tempered Ship with 3.1 seconds is the only driver with time penalties. Capsule Healer and 10 still has no time penalties. Maze, Breezy Rain, and Violet all also have no time penalties. For the drivers in the midfield, SSR Quinn has 1 second. TCPP Photo has 1.5 seconds. Wiza4 has 0.6. Kid Suave has exactly half a second. And Wicked Ant 54 has 0.8 seconds of time penalties right now. So outside of Tempered Ship, right now it does not look like time penalties are going to have a massive impact on how the rest of this race plays out here. So Breezy Rain seems to have lost a little bit of touch with Tempered Ship, is now under a lot more threat from behind from Maze. These two on the same strategy here. Breezy Rain another day in the Porsche Cup where they start right at the pointy end of the field, but it just does not matter because when some of your fastest drivers are missing, and we've lost another driver in the form of Wicked Ant, it seems. So that is our second disconnect of the night now. Maze still runs right behind Rain at the moment. Now, disconnects from both Wicked Ant and Agera really helps drivers like Suave and Capsule Healer. Suave and Capsule Healer are just having an awful day, no good pace at all. But the longer they're able to stay in while these other drivers are dropping out, the better off they'll be in the points. Remember, every spot gained is a few more points earned. We believe that those two drivers are, we know Suave is going to go for it, and we believe Capsule Healer also is going for the Porsche Cup Championship. A lot of the other drivers reign in the higher positions in this race. This is a kind of a fun little side thing. They are not actually engaged in the Drivers' Championship in the Porsche Cup this season. SSR Quinn now pitting there on what is lap 19. So they went 7 laps on the softs earlier. Well, about 8 laps on the softs, but it was 7 racing laps. Now they only seem to be able to go about 11 or so laps on the mediums. So Quinn really seems to be struggling with tire life, is my guess. Breezy Rain trying to keep Maze behind. Maze gets to the inside, side by side out. Turn number 1. Now into turn number 2. Breezy Rain trying to keep Maze behind. Puts the power down. Slides at purple and black Razor number 20 just ahead of the white Porsche. Said Porsche goes wide, drops the tire in the dirt as they come out of turn number 3. Down this slightly shorter back straightaway. And the gap opens up back in Breezy Rain's favor once again. And Maze hangs out right behind still. And all the while, NDL Violet continues to just tick away bit by bit. Oh, is that Tempered Ship? Yes, that is Tempered Ship, I believe. Yes, Tempered Ship has made a mistake. And suddenly our second place driver has had a catastrophic failure, has gone right off circuit. No damage to the car as far as I can see, but Tempered Ship goes from second to now fighting to just stay in the top 5. Here comes Tempered Ship fourth. Inside is TCPP Photo for 5th. Side by side, neck and neck, Ship and Photo Photo has the inside line. Ship runs wide, but he's able to keep the car on track. He can go nice and deep under braking. He does. He'll go plenty deep under braking. Photo's going to wrap it around on the outside, though. Still side by side. They come up to that high-speed kink. Someone has to back out. It's going to be Photo who backs out of it. Big slide there by Tempered Chip. And Photo now looks to the inside. Is not going to go for a dive bomb that time. And out of the final corner, it looks like, for the moment, Tempered Chip will hold station over TCPP Photo. All right, coming to the party right now is, well, I just missed them. They came into the party, must have heard what I was talking about, and left. It's a shame. Okay, I was going to try and get an interview with Wicked Ant, but here comes the move. Back on the inside, there's contact that time between Photo and Chip. Photo went for the dive bomb. Door-to-door contact. Chip went wide. Photo backs out, says, hey, man, that's no cool. That's no bueno. He backed out. Let Tempered Chip go by. Tempered Chip goes back into the 4th spot. Photo goes back down to 5th. But in the process, now they've both lost a lot of positioning against Wiza, and Breezy Rain and Maze are now side by side in the fight for second as well. Around the outside is Maze, on the inside is Breezy Rain. That white Porsche again drops dirt onto the tires, running that outside line, but he does have the power to outrun Breezy Rain into the valley. That may have been all it took. That may have been all she wrote for the fight for second. No damage to Breezy Rain's car by the looks of it, but Maze is by. Now that is a 10.3 second gap now, 10.4 second gap now between Maze and Violet. Maze is finally in completely clean air, but from what we have seen thus far, we don't think Maze has what it takes to run down Violet, and if he did, he'd have to run Violet down at a rate a little bit faster than half a second a lap. Every lap from that, it would be about 0.6 of a second a lap every lap from now to the end. No, yeah, 0.6 of a second a lap every lap from now to the end. That would get it for him. TCPP Photo jumping into the pits this lap. Lap 21, a little earlier than anticipated. No signs of damage on the car, but it looks like he is trying to salvage the tires. He does not want to push the tires too aggressively, so this puts Tempered Chip all by himself in 4th position all over again. Again, Tempered Chip qualified second, but has now fallen to 4th. Got a little bit too aggressive, fighting with Maze, then got into it with just by himself. Fell well down the grid, ended up fighting with TCPP Photo a bit, which hurt them even more, and now they're kind of stuck in no man's land. Breezy Rain still hangs out behind Maze for the moment, and all the while, Violet continues to scoot away from the rest of the grid right now. Frustrating thing for Wiza is that he's running in 5th position, but just does not seem to have the pace to do anything. He saw Tempered Chip lose all that time. Might have been thinking, oh, cool, a free position. But Tempered Chip was able to basically stop and stem the bleeding before Wiza could actually catch him. So Wiza's kind of back and running in not quite no man's land here. So we are past this race's halfway point right now. We anticipate that everyone has one more stop to take. Violet, we believe, will be making their stop on lap 26. For Maze and Breezy Rain, we don't know if it's going to be on 26 or 27, but we believe they'll be paying at similar time frames. We believe most of the rest of the field will be paying around that time. We'll throw out a set of mediums and go to the end. We have been completely green and caution-free. We have had 2 disconnects and a few incidents of drivers sliding into the dirt, but no big catastrophic spins. A little bit of contact earlier between Tempered Chip and Photo. But even then, both their cars continued to point the same direction. It was just, Tempered Chip kind of lunged off circuit in reaction. And now it's looking like Tempered Chip is starting to break the draft between themselves and Breezy Rain. A little bit farther down the grid, this is TCPP Photo looking up at SSR Quinn ahead. Again, Photo elected to jump off the tires, does not want to push the tires into a heavy wear range. So now they run behind SSR Quinn right now, who has also already made their second stop of the night. Still watching as Breezy Rain tries to do something against Maze. We're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break as we ride on board Breezy Rain as they try to run Maze down here at Kylami. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami. While we were away, we have lost the third driver. TCPP Photo has now dropped out of the event, so we are down to just 8 cars still running, and that's another free position there for the likes of Capsule Healer and Little Kid Suave. Liza coming out of the pit lane right now. So that'll drop them behind Capsule Healer and just a little bit ahead of Suave for the moment. But now, the other thing is that while TCPP Photo dropped out, we also saw Breezy Rain drop tires into the dirt in the valley that's in Sector 2. In the process, they've lost all contact with Maze. And now coming to the party is TCPP Photo. Photo, can you hear me? Yes, please.
All right.
All right. Well, Photo, it's nice to be able to talk to you, but I didn't want to have to talk to you while the race that you were in is still going on. What took you out there?
Can you say that again?
Well, I didn't want to talk with you while the race that you were competing in is still going on, but I have to ask, what took you out?
It was a disconnect. I was doing really well. I was on Quinn's rear end, and my game just disconnected.
All right, frustrating time for sure. We saw a little bit of argy-bargy between you and Tempered Ship a few laps before you dropped out. What was going on there between you two?
It's just standard racing, rubbing, you know. I went for a bit of a dive, tapped him, he got a sim snap, so gave the place back. It's only fair.
All right, seems completely reasonable to me. Well, you've seen NDL Violet come and go. You've seen Maze come and go. Violet leads Maze by 10 seconds. Do you think Maze has any shot of catching Violet, or do you think the race win at least is already locked up for him?
Violet's a strong contender for P1. I think, realistically, if he can do a good last stint, he'll be first place. I reckon it's locked out if he's got the last stint sorted.
All right. Anything else you want to say before we let you go for the night?
No, that's everything.
All right. Well, Photo, thanks for jumping in and talking with us. And don't hit the bottom of the milk carton too hard in sadness after what happened. Will eventually be another event.
Yeah, I'll try not to.
All right. That's the word from TCPP Photo, our third different DNF of the day. We are now down to just 8 cars still running at the stage of the event. Your leader, by a hefty margin, is NDL Violet, leading over It's Maze. Maze has gotten up to second position. He's finally in clean air. The thing is that he is still got 10 seconds between himself and Violet, and the gap has just not really grown, but it's not really shrinking either. It seems to be stuck in this 9.9 to 10.3 second range. So, and Violet is not on track to catch any traffic between now and the end of this race. And even if he did, I don't think he's going to catch 10 seconds worth of traffic. So unless Violet has some sort of catastrophic failure, the race win is his. For Maze, it seems like it's a similar case. Breezy Rain is now about 4.5, nearly 5 seconds out from Maze at this stage of the event. And then Breezy Rain themselves are also running about 5 seconds up the road, from about 5.5 seconds up the road from Tempered Ship. And then it's another 20 seconds back to SSR Quinn, although once you get back here, you start getting the drivers who are on alternate pit stop strategies right now, alternate pit stop sequences. So with about 12 laps left, there's not really a lot more to talk about and look over in the event. Most of the drivers who are having anything interesting going on have been the ones who have dropped out as the event has gone on tonight. Big question, of course, is going to be tire management. Again, if you want to make this a 2-stop race, for NDL Violet, he needs to be able to make it to the end of this lap without issue. He is at 60.9%, 61% on that right front tire. He has done a very good job managing his rubber. He can pit at the end of this lap, throw on mediums again, and when he runs mediums to the end, he'll be good. Now, Maze has the option to stay out a lap longer if he so chooses. And yes, Violet is pitting now. So is Maze going to pit this time, or is he going to wait an extra lap? Looks like Maze is going to choose to stay out 1 lap longer, but Breezy Rain does want to pit this time by. And it looks like this is enough that on technicality at the line, Maze will lead a lap. So all 3 X-League events thus far this season, between Porsche Cup and X and GT3 Pro, Maze has led at least 1 lap in all of them. Very interesting stat to have. NDL Violet, unsurprisingly, ends up in clean air after pitting. Real quickly, we look at the penalty counter. Maze is now up to 2.4 seconds of time penalties, and Violet still has nothing. Breezy Rain and Tempered Ship both have 3.1 seconds. Wiza, 0.6. Lil Kid Suave, 0.5. SSR Quinn, 1 second exactly, and Capsule Healer, 1.6 seconds. So even if Maze was catching Violet, the time penalty would just automatically screw him over all over again. So Violet's been putting together pretty much a perfect race tonight, it seems. Making this very, very dull, at least for me, where I am. There's not really a lot to talk about here. We know Maze will pit this time by, just doesn't have the fuel to go any longer. He can throw on the medium tires and be fine to the end. Softs are not a usable strategy right now, because Maze would just fall off so badly in time from the tire loss over the last 3 laps. But yeah, he is the only driver. Oh, Maze is out for another lap. He's at 2.8% in the fuel tank. Is Maze going to be able to make it the rest of the way around? Will Maze be able to make it back into the pit lane? He's only got 63% wear on his tires. So yes, he is losing time, but he's not losing an absurd amount right now. Maze is trying something late in this event. I don't think it's a good strategy to try, but Maze is doing something interesting. So at the end of this lap, there would be 10 circuits left. Maze is going 14 laps on their tires. Are they going to be able to make the fuel last, though? 1.5%. See, if he can makes it around and doesn't lose too much time, this will be interesting, but I don't have confidence that he's going to have fuel to get to the pits. 1% now as he's coming up the hill. Now with 10 laps left, what do you do? Is he going to throw on softs? Because if he throws on softs, he'll be fast for a while, but he's still going to bleed off a lot of time on the last 2 laps. 67% wear on those front tires now. 0.4% in the fuel tank. If he makes it into the pits on fuel, it's going to be barely, but I think he's going to make it. He's going to limp in, but he'll have just enough to fire it into the pits here. I don't think he can cut that much closer than that. So Mays finally makes a stop with 10 laps left, doing something to make the event a little bit more interesting here. Now this will give the lead and inevitably the race win back to Violet. We know that Mace has nothing he can really do to Violet. He's trying something at least. We believe he'll throw on, I guess, soft tires and try to make softs last 10 laps to the end. The interesting thing, of course, is that this may put Breezy Rain back in play for a second place result, because Breezy Rain's already got back up to pace, back up to dive with the tires. Now, he's not been happy with pushing the tires super deep, but he is back up to play. He has caught Mays again, so Mays lost about 2.5 seconds by staying out an extra lap, well, extra 2 laps technically. And now Breezy Rain has caught him again. Now, if Mays is on the soft tires, he should be able to blow away Breezy Rain without issue, and the fight will be trying to build a big enough gap that Breezy Rain can't catch him again late. But if the situation instead is that Tempered Ship is dropping through the field all of a sudden, what's happening here? I don't see any damage, but he suddenly lost a huge chunk of time and fell from 4th to 6th. I do apologize. But anyways, as I was saying, between Mays and Breezy Rain, for Mays, if he's got the soft tires on, which we believe he does, the focus needs to be on opening the gap as big as he can between himself and Breezy Rain, and hoping that the combination of time penalties and track position will keep him ahead for second. But he's just not going to have a shot at running NDL Violet down. Even if he runs Violet down, by the time he would catch Violet, the tires would burn off, and Violet is the only driver on track with no time penalties right now. But boy, Mays has disposed of Breezy Rain very quickly and effectively. Look at time penalties. Mays still has less time penalty than Breezy Rain as well. Not really much else on circuit to keep an eye on right now. Little Kid Suave here has ended up back in 5th position, just behind Wiza, his teammate, and Tempered Ship. Whatever happened to cause him to lose some ground has fallen behind both of this duo. So between disconnects and just misfortune to others, Suave, who has had a incredibly uncompetitive time today, he's only been losing about 2/3 a second a lap to the leaders on average, lap on lap. And I think it's likely, not guaranteed, but it's likely that he's going to be fighting for a top 5 result come the end of this race. Teammate Wiza here running in 4th, which is respectable, but just not anywhere near good enough to touch the podium. He has not had anything close to the pace of the podium drivers. The main 4 guys fighting for the podium had been Ship, Breezy Rain, Maze, and Violet, but Ship had 2 big off-track excursions and may have had a 3rd one that we missed, and now he's just trying to dig himself out of that hole. And here comes Wiza now, pitting with 7 laps to go. He'll be joined by Suave this time by. So they're going to be on nice, fresh, soft tires to the end of this race. This is Tempered Chip, who already has quite a bit of wear on his medium, so he's going to be slower and is going to have a bit of a tire wear disadvantage until the very end of this race. But for the moment, Tempered Chip goes up into 4th. Question is going to be, can Suave or Wiza do anything to try and run them down? I'm going to be honest, I don't think so. I think their fight's going to be with this man here, SSR Quinn, who's rounding the final corner. Quinn's going to end up right behind those two Porsches just as they come out of pit lane. He's going to get by Suave, I think, by the time they get to the braking zone. I don't know if he'll be able to clear Wiza, though. He will not be able to clear Wiza. So he is the meat in this sandwich. But again, these white, red, and blue Porsches, these Pride Porsches, P-R-Y-D-E Porsches, are going to have a gigantic tire life advantage to the end here. Quinn trying to pressure Wiza before his tires get up to full temperature right now. Well, already Wiza is starting to pull on Quinn, and Quinn is under threat from Suave as they come up to the top of the mountain once again. Any big moves? Closes in a little bit at the top of the mountain. And now firing back off downhill here. Bottom of the hill. Suave gets right under Quinn, but isn't really trying to hustle him right now, it seems. Oh, and Wiza dropped the tires into the dirt there. That's going to hold him up a bit. Suave closes in behind Quinn again. Quinn just is not in a position to do anything to Wiza. He is so busy trying to deal with Suave, your defending Porsche champion, behind him. He just can't really capitalize on any mistakes that Wiza is making. Suave looks to the inside of Wiza, side by side, neck and neck, heavy under the brakes. Suave goes deep, and Quinn's going to cross him over and door slam him on exit. And goes back in front of Suave. Suave gets that Porsche really sideways going over the curbs there. Back up top of the mountain, not top of the mountain, but top of turn 3. Down this slightly shorter back straightaway. Now into the first of the two big downforce focused corners on the circuit. Last year, the Kylami races were daytime and went into the night, but this race has been all day, all event long. So significantly different temperature and lighting conditions will definitely be something interesting to remember when we get to tomorrow night's race. Quinn running a semi-defensive line. Suave looking to the inside as they come to the top of the mountain. Suave going really deep under braking. You saw him lock up and slide that red front tire, and Quinn trying to cross him over, and they got into each other. Suave completes the overtake on Quinn at the top of the mountain. So does Quinn have anything for the Suave to try and get back by him here? Does not look like it. Suave ran that corner a little wider than he needed to. Quinn got right behind him. But now Quinn drops tires in the dirt 2 times in a row. Very nearly loses that in a high-speed kink. Now out of the final corner. Down the front straightaway again. For Quinn, this might be their last shot at catching Suave. And there's nothing in it. So as long as Suave doesn't make any mistakes, it looks like Suave is going to be able to salvage a 6th place result after qualifying next to last. Suave has taken advantage of some other drivers' misfortune, some disconnects, and he's going to come out here with 6th, it looks like. But farther up the grid, Mays has broken the 3.5 second gap between himself and NDL Violet. But we all know it's not meaning much because he's already at 35% wear on his tires. NDL Violet, who runs ahead of him, is only at 32%. So already Mays is behind the 8 ball when it comes to tire life. And that's just tire life. We look at the penalties right now. 2.4 seconds against Mays. Violet has nothing. Maze's real fight is not with Violet. His real fight is with Breezy Rain, currently running 8 seconds behind Maze at the moment. But Breezy Rain does not have to worry about tire fall off. Maze is going to be dealing with some monstrous tire fall off as this goes on here. Suave still trying to pull away from Quinn, and I think he's going to pull it off here. So yeah, Quinn looks like they're going to stabilize in 7th, and Capsule Healer might be 8th. Last of the drivers running, but they are running smoothly enough. They will still finish this race on the lead lap. So as I said, once Violet made that final move, that overtake on about lap 10 or so for the win of this race, he's just been in basically clean air most of the rest of the event. Our main focus of interest is going to be the fight for 2nd. Maze is using everything that these tires has right now. He's trying to open up the gap between himself and Breezy Rain as large as possible because he knows his tires are going to fall off something nasty near the end here. And when they do, Breezy Rain is going to run him down with immense speed. I want to go ahead and spin the lap on board with Breezy Rain. Well, as he's just about 3 seconds out from Violet. I want to spin a lap on board with Maze here. We've already ran on board with Violet and Breezy Rain. I want to see what a flying lap on the soft tires looks like from Maze. Looks like podium's in the card, but will it be a 2nd or a 3rd? That is the question to ask. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here at Kylami. 3 laps left in the event. Your leader is India Violet. Maze has closed down to about 2.6 seconds behind, but Maze is on burnt out soft tires and is struggling to deal with time penalties as well. But he has opened up a 12-second gap on this man here, Breezy Rain. So unless something catastrophic happens to Maze, there's no chance for Breezy Rain to catch him. And then you have another big gap to Tempered Chip. Tempered Chip qualified 2nd, but has just not had the consistency. Has gone off circuit, made contact with drivers multiple times, slipped back to a very, very distant 4th place result. And something is happening at the head of the field right now. Violet is being caught rapidly by Maze. I don't see any damage, but this gap has now closed down to a 2nd. Maze is tearing into Violet right now. 8% left in the fuel tank for Maze. Violet has 13%, so it's not a fuel issue. The gap now goes back to 1 second, but this is the closest it's been between Violet and Maze all day. Now again, Maze has a bunch of time penalty and Violet does not, so even if Maze catches Violet, he'd have to get by him by several seconds. But something happened to Violet to cause him to lose a bunch of time, and Maze got right there. Two laps to go when the leaders hit the line this time by. Maze now again within the 1 second range of Violet. Now they're both on worn out tires at this stage, but the level of wear is rapidly different. 45%, 46% for Violet on mediums, for Maze on the softs, 59%. This is the lap. We're gonna start seeing a massive amount of fall off. He's gonna hit 60% just here through turns 1, 2, and 3. But still, he has 12 seconds roughly between himself and Breezy Ray. And on top of that, he has a slight advantage when it comes to time penalties between himself and Breezy Ray as well. As long as Maze doesn't throw the car off circuit, go into the dirt or something, and spend a large amount of time there, I think he'll be able to stabilize second. But it's gotta be frustrating for him. He's done just about everything right, it seemed, outside of, not being as aggressive as Violet going through traffic. Well, I shouldn't say that, because he did damage his engine on the first stint, and that's definitely slowed his ability to make his way through traffic in the first stint of the first tire life stint in this race. Now the gap's 1.3 seconds and starting to rapidly open up. Pretty much every other position on track has been pretty much solved. Wiza holds on to 5th over teammate Lil Kid Suave, but Suave is not really close enough to capitalize. And while these drivers are also on soft tires to the end of this race, they pitted much later for their soft tires, so they are not struggling nearly as badly. Yeah, they went on the 3-stop strategy. All things considered, even though the tires are falling off, Maze is still within a second. Violet is slow out of the final corner. What's going on there? Violet now all of a sudden has Maze right behind him again. Now both of them have worn out tires at the final lap. Are we going to have a final lap shootout? Violet has no problem going into turn 1. Hold station, but again, Violet just seems to be struggling a bit here. Which is odd, because it's not like he's under any serious pressure. He just needs to keep it on track. Maze's tires are so cooked, it's not like he's going to get past. Is Maze just toying with the field right now? Just messing around? I'm sorry, I said Maze. Is Violet just toying with the field and just messing around at the moment? Down to the valley for the final time. Now they fire it back uphill. Gaps rapidly opens back up again between Maze and Violet. Yeah, surely Violet was just messing around and playing with Maze. They're almost taunting him at the end of this. Still a pretty good showing for Maze. Missing qualifying, missing practice. Again, didn't really know what the ideal strategy was. Looks like he's going to pull out a respectable second. But Violet, fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying, started the race from the rear of the grid. As he comes through the final corner, bit of a Kansai Dorifto moment out of the final corner. Still drifting it around. Real big showcase here. Big show off. But yes, Indiel Violet will be your winner here at Kylami. Second place goes to Maze. Third place will go to Breezy Rain here. Another pole position turn podium, but definitely wanted a pole position turn win. Tempered Ship will have to settle for 4th position. Then we look at 5th. This should be Wiza without any issue whatsoever. And time penalties will keep him ahead of Suave as well. So Wiza 5th, Lil Kid Suave in the background, you can see getting 6th. And then after that will be SSR Quinn, who will come home 7th. And And then you round out the very back of the grid. The last car running at the end of this race is going to be Capsule Healer. And he'll still get 8th place points at the end of this all. Well, with that in mind, we'll take a quick Twitch-mandated ad break, and when we come back, we'll try to get interviews from our podium finishers here at Kylami. We'll be back shortly. Yeah! Oh, sweet. All right. Violet, can you hear me?
Yo.
All right. Breezy, can you hear me? All right, awesome. I don't know if May's going to jump in or not. But we'll go ahead and start off with Breezy. I'll start with third, then go second and first. Maze, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, cool. I'm going to start with Breezy Rain here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Kylami. Our race is over, and your pole sitter ended up coming home with a podium result. Breezy, go ahead, include your audio. Third place. Is there anything different you could have done, though, to get a better result?
No. I made too many mistakes.
All right, well, is there anything else you have to say at all about that event, like at all?
No. Still fuck Suave. Nothing happened with just fuck Suave.
I don't even think you saw him all day. That is a very, very intense rivalry.
Just gotta put it out there again.
All right, fair enough. Are you going to be running in tomorrow night's race? And if you do, do you think there's anything you will have learned from this event going into tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be racing, but the Porsche and the GTs is terrible. That car sucks.
All right, well, fair enough. Anything else you want to say before we let you go for the night? Because it seems you're obviously a little bit burnt out and a little bit frustrated at the way things played out.
No, I'm not frustrated.
All right, fair enough. Well, that's the word from our pole sitter and third place finisher, Breezy Rain. I want to go ahead and talk with our second place finisher, Maze. Maze, go ahead and include your audio. Last week, you started last, came home to win. Today, you started second last, came home to finish second. Is there anything different you think you could have done tonight?
Yes. I definitely could have did a little more homework and tested my strategy out a little bit better. Obviously, I don't normally race in this series, so I normally focus more on the pro side of things and preparing for that. But yeah, I did my math wrong and I had my strategy all messed up. So on the end of the last stint, I was suffering a little bit, but I don't think it really mattered. I mean, I probably could have hung with Violet for, I don't know, maybe he would have finished like five or so seconds ahead of me, but I had a little mishap with Tempered as I was working my way up through, and he was able to pass a lot of cars more efficiently than I was. But overall, I don't think the result would have been much different. So as far as if I've learned anything, not really, except for I need to be better about looking at my strategy and yeah, I mean, hopefully I can figure it out for tomorrow. I think I'll be a little more prepared.
All right. Well, before you leave, Maze, I will say thus far you are the only driver to have led laps in all 3 X League events thus far in summer. You led laps in both the Porsche Cup and GT3 race last weekend. You led 1 lap off sequence here today as well. So it's a small thing, but it's a very interesting interesting statistic that you're leading in. So good job on that at least.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. And now I want to go ahead and turn our focus to the winner of today's race, NDL Violet. Violet, fastest in practice, fastest in qualifying, and it wasn't even close. Why did you start dead last, though?
I've been having like mental internet troubles the past like month, so I haven't been doing any leagues. I saw the boys in the voice chat and I thought, politely, fuck it, I'm gonna send it. And was lagging all over the place in qualifying. Don't know how I got a lap in. I'm pretty sure I almost lagged out in 3 separate occasions during the race. My cat was going ballistic. Had to stop on the circuit like 3 times. I don't know how I finished here. I really don't. I think it's solely because of the strategy. I genuinely don't know how else to explain how I ended up anywhere near the front. If you could have seen the things that were happening on my screen at the start of the race, oh my god. Like, I saw like 5 people enter the 5th dimension and come back out and just appear in front of me. I don't know how I don't understand how I'm here. It would appear that the mediums are very strong on this car, is what I'm gonna say, because I was doing like, at the end of the race, I was doing like 6/10 faster than my qualifying lap. Like, I don't know, I think the mediums of this car kind of just cracked. I haven't really driven this car all that much, to be honest. I literally only own this one and it's level like 12, so don't really drive it all that often, though it's a lot more interesting than I thought. The power curve is quite fun. The way they've got the gearing set up for this tune is quite good as well. But yeah, enjoyed the race nonetheless of the lag and the almost dying and my cat, but I don't know how I ended up anywhere near where I finished.
Alright, so let me just real quickly make sure I got all this straight. So, you've not been in practice, like serious practice for league stuff, for a month. Your internet was cutting in and out. Your cat was acting schizophrenic. You saw other drivers make contact with the lizard people in the 5th dimension. And I'm guessing on top of all of that, we can expect the IRS to kick down your door to steal taxes from you with how that is. And you're still here winning! You're still winning at the end of that all.
You don't understand what I was seeing on lap 1 and 2, bro. Genuinely, I drove through about 3 different people, like they weren't even there, and then the exact same shit happened to me when they were driving through me. They were just teleporting, or I saw somebody's car, like, in the floor. I don't know what happened. I couldn't tell you the events of lap 1. I couldn't.
Well, I kind of kept a bit of an eye on you throughout some of lap 1. From my end, your car looked perfectly fine. I saw no weird issues, no weird anything from you the entire time. So,
yeah, my upload speed is fine. Like, my positional data for what's sent to the server and everyone else, fine. My download doesn't exist. I've got, like there's been points this week where I've been seeing, like, 0.8 of a megabyte download, while, like, I'm getting 350 upload. Like, it makes no sense. My internet is just death right now. How I genuinely, in that race, I must have stopped on circuit at least 3 times to, like, sort whatever the hell was going out with my cat. And then, yeah. I don't know. I don't understand that race.
Definitely wild stuff. I do want to ask, though, you seem to play your cards luckily to your advantage tonight. Is there a chance we see you in any more X-League events over the next few weeks?
Well, I would like to, but I don't want to kill people is the issue, because the problem with, like, having bad internet on this game is when on your screen you will brake, on their screen they won't. So you be behind people and they just don't. On their screen you don't brake, and then on theirs you do. Or on other people's on my screen I see people like not brake, kill me, and then go back to where they were. So I got very lucky. I think if they turned the damage off, I would consider it. But solely because there's damage, I'm not going to enter anything that's too serious.
Fair enough. I will say that does explain why some of the moves you made throughout the day were such strange moves. You don't normally see people make runs on the outside Kylami, but if you're trying to be that defensive and, not accidentally nip someone in the butt, that makes a lot more sense. Anything else you want to say before we go ahead and let you go after a very stressful victory here?
Speaking of outside moves, I made an absolutely beautiful one on Wiser. On I don't know if you saw it. It was at lap 10. It's in the end of the second, or the second sector before the kind of S chicane thing after the big right-hander.
Yeah.
Downhill one. I made a beautiful move on that first left-hander before the chicanes on the outside.
If it's the one I'm thinking
state
of,
trance.
Yeah, if that's the one I was thinking of, yes, I do believe I was catching that when it happened. And that was definitely one of those cases man, Violet's really in a world of his own, just running on lines that are completely suboptimal and still just blitzing everybody else.
That's what I mean. You have a car that has a gearbox and a diff that's set up properly. It makes racing a lot more. I mean, I still think that this is a lot more unnecessary than is good for a spec race car. That's why even if I did have good internet, I probably wouldn't show up to this every round. But yeah, if you have a car that has a good diff and a good gearbox, it allows you to put the car in positions that allow you to use the decel and the opening and closing of the diff to make silly moves like that. And I think Wise is relatively new to FM competitive, so I kind of mocked him a little bit, making a silly move like that. I was quite happy with it.
NDL
me and Wise get on,
T-pose.
Yeah, but me and Wise have been getting on a lot more, or getting on recently, so I thought I'd mog on him and send a little dummy move on him.
Alright, well, thanks for jumping in and talking with us, mate. Obviously stressful, but still pretty darn solid event win here at Kylami. And for those of you who are watching who want some more Forza Motorsport Racing action, don't you worry. Tomorrow night we will be covering the GT3 Pro event here at Kylami. We're expecting a slightly larger field for that event. And then on Sunday night, we'll be back with FEC's IndyCar League. But until next time, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13. Thank you everyone for joining us. Farewell and goodbye, everyone.